I had this one patient that called me about 3 weeks ago. He said he wanted to come in and see me for something that was wrong with his head. I told him we were full for appointments, and he was going to have to wait till the end of the week. He said, well, when you get a chance, call me. So he left his number and he left. Oh. I work at an ear, nose, and throat clinic. And there was a guy who came in earlier in the week with what looked like a big fat lip. I asked him what happened. He wouldn't tell me. I'm like, dude, you got a shiner. How did you do that? And he finally confessed that he was in a bar fight and he got punched in the face so hard he saw stars. Then he ran off and left his buddy behind to fend for himself. So anyway, that all happened right before this other guy calls me. I go into my office and get on the phone with this other guy, and I ask him what's wrong. He says, well, something's really wrong with my head. Something knocked from inside my head. And I said, what do you mean by that? Well, there's something loose inside my head, and it knocked around every time I move. I could tell over the phone this guy was intoxicated. His speech was slurred. I said, have you been in a fight or something? He goes, no, not a fight. Just something weird happened last night. All right, well, let's get you in tomorrow morning for 9 a.m. and we'll check you out. Okay, thank you.
Hey.
So the next morning rolls around, this guy shows up, and I go back and look at him. The thing I noticed first is he didn't have any obvious injuries on his face or head. He looked like he just walked off the street, but he was wearing sunglasses. It was 8 o'clock in the morning, and I'm like, you need sunglasses for that. He's like, yeah, it's kind of bright right now. So I bring him back to the examination room, and I sit him down, and I go ahead and get my examination stuff together and put it on the table, and I say, hey, what happened to your eye? Why are you wearing sunglasses? And he goes, oh, it's nothing. Nothing happened to my eye. I just got something in it, that's all. I don't want you to look, though. Well, why don't you take your shades off and let me look real quick? No, I can't do that. It's okay. I can go to another doctor if it's a problem. Are you sure you're okay? You don't seem okay to me? Oh, yeah, I'm fine. Well, let's start off by looking in your ears, okay? And he starts telling me that he doesn't want me to look in his ears either. I push him a little bit harder, and I finally convinced him to let me look in his ears. There was nothing in there. Then I grab my ophthalmoscope and I go, can I look at your eyes? He's like, yeah, sure. So I look at his eyes. They're both totally blown pupils. Now, when I examine people's eyes, they always get dilated. When I shine the light in there, because their pupils will dilate to react to that bright light, but his pupils didn't constrict at all. They stayed big. That's the only thing abnormal I found. So I go, hey, I need you to open real wide and say, ah. He does it. And I stick my finger in his mouth and try to feel for anything with my finger. There was nothing there. So then I went ahead and looked at his throat. All I see is this big fat tongue hanging out in his mouth. I'm like, hey, move your tongue to the side. So he does. And I look underneath and I see this huge mass in the back of his throat. I'm like, what the hell is that? And he's telling me that he doesn't know what it is. Did you have that yesterday? No, I didn't. Never had that before, and this thing is huge. It's filling up his entire throat. So then I decide I need to do a nasal endoscopy. So I grab my nasal endoscope and I put it through his nose. I'm like, oh my God, look at this thing. This thing is taking up the whole back part of his throat. It's some sort of mass. So then I go back out and grab my bigger scope and go back in and get a better view of it. There's this mass taking up the whole back part of his throat. I'm like, oh my gosh, what the hell is this thing?
Eyes.
So then I grab my biopsy forceps and I go, do you mind if I stick this in your throat a little bit? Sure, whatever. So I stuck it in his throat and grabbed that mass and pulled it out, and it was a brain. A part of his brain was sticking out of his mouth. I started screaming at the top of my lungs, get a crash cart in here, stat. Call 911. Get this guy to the operating room immediately. He has a huge defect in the roof of his mouth and a piece of his brain is sticking out of it. So the residents and everybody started running into the room, and I sent them all out to go help the patient while I stay in the room with him. When the neurosurgeons get called and they show up, actually tell me it's a very rare thing that happens where a person has an AVM or an arteriovenous malformation. And basically what it is it's an abnormal connection between arteries and veins in the brain. And they can cause bleeding, but they can also put pressure on the brain itself. And what that pressure does is it pushes the brain out through the top of the skull. And the way he most likely did it was by bumping his head on something hard, probably during the bar fight. The bump caused the brain to push out even further and hit the roof of his mouth, causing him to bleed internally. The surgery was successful and everything ended up working out for him. But the thing that still cracks me up to this day is the look on his face when he woke up from the anesthesia. And he was looking up at me and I had this huge chunk of gauze in my hand. and he was trying to figure out where that piece of his brain went. It was a pretty cool thing to see. I was watching a video of it, and I thought it would be funny if I reenacted it. But that's not the craziest thing I ever saw. Watch this video, and you'll see something truly terrifying.